So I'm joined here today with Gerard Krecklenberg. Did I say that correctly?
You did well.
So Gerard has a wealth of experience in property finance, in solar, in a number of industries. I believe you've done more than R500 million in property deals in the past.
For my sins, yep.
Yeah.
Been in property for quite a while.
And now playing in the solar industry. So I just want to talk to you today about solar, about carbon offsets, about the opportunity in the market, about how people lack access to that opportunity. Who is busy grabbing this opportunity right now? What is that opportunity? You know, all of these things we're going to cover today.
Great.
So really looking forward to it. Thanks so much for being here, Gerard.
My pleasure.
Maybe start off just by telling us a little bit more about Carbon Zero and why you started it, and what's your passion there?
Well, Carbon Zero is a fairly new initiative, and it's more of a culmination or collaboration of people that I've been involved with for the last 20, 30 years. My background is retail banking and finance, as well as property, be it retail, industrial, residential and commercial. We looked at property, at solar and our own property portfolio many years back, 8-9 years ago, and it was the biggest grudge purchase on earth. But we were also faced with the dilemma, where to invest our money.
Yeah.
At that point in time, the product wasn't where it is now from a technology point of view. The access to finance, we were better placed to invest our money elsewhere in terms of hard assets, as opposed to the returns which now solar does provide.
Yeah. So you're saying very recently the solar returns have become tangible.
All the dynamics have changed.
Yes.
It's also the crisis being just so much downtime. You've got a choice to be in business or not, regardless of expenses. But now with technology and creative finance mechanisms, anyone can get involved in solar, from a domestic household to the largest chicken farm.
Yeah.
So the options are available, the tech is out there, and the actual advancements in technology is amazing to behold, and it's only going to get better. So it's a good time to jump in now, across the board.
Yeah. So how would you compare then? There's a lot of people who debate the efficiencies and pros and cons of, for example, solar versus wind versus hydroelectric versus hydrogen versus typical oil and gas. There's still a lot of maybe older heads in the room that believe we should just go and frack the Karoo and do gas because that'll give us the quickest win, right? What do you see as some of those pros and cons and criticisms around those?
Well, I think it's less about the criticisms and more about the understanding of your business and what your actual requirements are, because there is actually a solution, an energy solution for every opportunity, and generally it's not just one or the other. It's a combination.
Absolutely.
So from a base load point of view, solar will never be able to provide the base load. The peaks and the amount of capacity required to kickstart something is not the same as the amount of capacity that you require just to keep it going. So where solar is an amazing mechanism to reduce your costs, you would probably need a generator or wind or another mechanism to fire you up, to handle that base load. But from a cost reduction point of view, solar is the way to go.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I'll tell you what it is from my perspective. From my perspective, I agree with you. It's not one or the other. And we get this a lot where people say but solar isn't everything. I say, well, I'm not claiming solar to be everything. I'm saying we're focusing on solar because that's what we believe in. And I can totally see hydrogen as a great technology. I can see wind as a great there's nothing, I'm not shooting down any other one just by picking this one.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you why I pick solar. Why I say solar is the best opportunity for South Africa right now. It's a couple of reasons. One of them is, like we mentioned, the technology has gotten incredibly good over the last 2 years. So efficiency of solar cells has increased incredibly over the last few years.
Correct.
The second one is that we have incredibly good sun in Africa, and we really need to take advantage of that. The third one is decentralization. Now, that's a very big word. That's it comes naturally to me from a crypto background.
Yeah.
But really what it is okay, if you have one big electric power station all it takes is for someone to go there and cut a line or throw a little grenade or damage it. There was a story in the US where somebody went out and they shot at a power station. The whole community was down for weeks. So that's a central point of failure, right? Whereas with solar, if you have it on a bunch of rooftops, you have all of these dispersed generation capacities.
Yeah.
It's a lot more reliable, right? And then the final one, and this is really for the people out there who are pro, and there are people who are very pro gas and coal and etc. I see a lot of the strengths of those arguments and why people say, no, that's what we got to do because you get instant energy, we know how to do it, it's management, etc. The problem with it really is sustainability, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that I think a lot of those guys aren't really considering.
Yeah.
It is not sustainable for us to go and take gas out of the ground or to continue burning fossil fuels to make electricity.
Yeah.
So sure, maybe that's still the quickest win right now, but we're not in third grade. We can look a little bit further than our noses.
Totally.
We've got to look for the absolute future. So in that respect, maybe tell us a little bit more around some of the advancements in terms of solar efficiencies, because one of the things that people ask about is like, well, surely, okay, it's a 20-year PPA, power purchase agreement. Do you have to replace panels? Is it going to degrade? People assume that it degrades very quickly over time. Is that true?
It's the furthest thing from the truth. Right now, the standard panels or off-the-shelf panels that are available have a minimum of a 25-year lifespan. And from day one to end of year 25, the worst degradation is 90% of its purchase capacity. So
so you're saying it degrades by 90% or it maintains 90%?
It goes down to 90% of its original capacity. So you lose 10%.
You lose 10.
Which is absolutely marginal, and to add panels and to side by side technology advancements when your base infrastructure is established is easy to do. It's bolt on. When you take a look at solar, the sun's available all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it peaks and troughs in summer and winter. You might produce 100 kilowatt hours in summer and 50 or 60 in winter. So that's just how it goes. The fact of the matter remains is that the production to the cost of installation is always a positive sum game. You will always be able to generate energy cheaper than your current utility, being at Eskom or wherever you may be, and it makes business, financial, and future sense 100% of the time.
I believe in January this year we crossed the threshold where the cost per kilowatt hour of producing energy, if you do a solar plant, is something in the region of 90 cents now, and the feed-in tariff is R1.05.
Yes, that's just the NERSA kind of scenario. Then you've got additional municipal incentives like the City of Cape Town, which have come to party. Just as of last night, we heard the Energy Minister, really push towards some form of privatization and bringing private players on board. There's a huge talks nationally and locally with regards to actually mandating the people and the business community to actually get involved in it. And I think handing that over to the private sector in all its guises is a great thing. But from a solar point of view, it's not an option. It's the only option as part of a mix.
So very simply, what we're saying here is that we're in a crisis, but also the crisis is an opportunity.
Absolutely.
So who is taking advantage of this opportunity right now? Who would you say is really pouring into it?
Obviously, there's people looking to place funds. The difference, I think I alluded to it earlier with regards to COVID. COVID was a crisis. It was a life and death crisis. It was businesses making it through to the end of COVID, and very few people ever benefited from it commercially. With regards to solar, it's an amazing opportunity, and yes, we have the inconvenience now. At some point, it will end. But every single South African has the opportunity to benefit from this current crisis. You can invest in a fund like your own for as little as 10 Rand or 20 Rand or 30 Rand to buy your part of an installation, and that investment buys base load now, so to speak, but it lasts forever. You last the term, and everyone can benefit. From the man in the street to the household to a novice investor to banks, commercials, businesses, some with MPO, some traditional, but it's an opportunity for everyone to literally dive in, not only for their own independence or off-grid, for one of a better word, independence, but just financial independence, because you're buying something now which lasts forever and it generates income forever, but you're paying for it now. And as inflation goes and cost of things get more expensive, and energy will be one of them, you've already paid for that advantage right now, and you've got a lifetime of revenue. So it's
this is one of the things that I don't think people are understanding right now. I mean, we're giving people direct ownership of the cells.
Yeah.
Right. So we can't guarantee a yield or a return.
Yeah.
And that sometimes worries people. So we've projected it out and we say, cool, well, as things stand, you're looking at about a 12% ROI per annum.
Yeah.
Right. So you're making 12% on your money per annum.
Yeah.
But like you say, if the electricity price goes up, that 12% could go up as well.
Yeah.
And indications are that price will go up.
It's not an indication, it's the fact of life. You know, if inflation, good or bad, is going to occur. I mean, deflation environments in any market is so temporary. Inflation is just how things go, you know. And your ROI does the sun come up? You know, if it doesn't, we've got bigger problems.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it's a natural...
if it doesn't, we've got way bigger problems.
Exactly. It's absolutely natural. And in the past, people would look for investment opportunities, be it property or art or whatever the case may be. This is the right opportunity because it's so accessible, it's so immediate, it's current, and what you're purchasing now, a cell or a panel or whatever, in whatever quantum you're able to purchase, you have it forever.
Yeah.
You have it for 20 years.
Yeah. And not only do you now have an asset that's earning you income on a quarterly basis, you're earning revenue, but you've actually provided electricity to somebody else, to your community. And we're focusing on community centers, right?
Exactly.
The places that add the most value to the surrounding, people. So we're collaborating on a project.
Correct.
Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, the first project that we're collaborating on is the GBV Center.
Yeah, GBV.
And we're providing them with stable and consistent supply of energy. Their center is highly sensitive. They've got special needs, and by not having electricity, they're placed in a real risk in a life and death environment.
Yeah.
We've set up a fund, we've set up an installation, and we're providing a service to the community, which is absolutely amazing. And it's not just about the revenue because it's a business, but the impact that it's having on that specific community and women which are faced with insurmountable challenges is a feel-good environment.
So I just want to dive into a little bit more of that impact. We were fortunate enough to go to visit Lucinda Evans, who runs Pilisa Bafati Betu, which is, or PAB, an organization that protects women and children of abusive situations. And, we heard it firsthand. She said to us, every time the power cuts, it's a traumatic experience.
Yeah.
The cameras are down, the electric fencing is down. This is meant to be, it's in the name, safe house, and people need to feel safe.
Yeah.
And these places are providing an essential service to the country,
Absolutely.
The government relies on them. When we have these court cases, they send people to them.
Yeah.
And these are really essential services for us as a community that we need to support.
Well, hers is different, and they're an NPO and they suffer funding challenges as it is anyway, and government supports as best as it can, but it doesn't always have the means to do so. And we talk about load shedding as a massive frustration and a hindrance to our business, and that's our crisis. Their crisis is life or death.
Yes.
And to make a meaningful difference in that space is what we're supposed to be doing as a generation.
Absolutely.
So it's been an amazing journey. And we've done the first of the facilities, and there's another 11 more to go.
Absolutely.
And carrying that message is amazing.
Yeah. So the installation starts when?
On the 24th we arrive.
Awesome.
We bring all the hardware, and on the 25th they're up and riding.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit more. So this first project is like a pilot. And we want to see that people support this project and that they want to improve the lives of these of their community. And thereafter, we're looking at a much bigger project. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? And I really mean in terms of the opportunity for the investors. You know, like, how many panels are we putting up? Why is it going to produce such a great return? What is the opportunity there?
Well, essentially, one of the nice things when you're dealing with solar, it's quite defined. You're producing kilowatts, you generate kilowatts, and you create kilowatts by using solar panels. So what we do is we take the installation and we work out what the current consumption is, and we're able to over provide for that installation. So although the center itself will always have energy, when the sun goes down or when there's load shedding, we kick into battery and inverters as the backup. But when we have the sunshine, we're able to produce more than they require on a daily basis. We're able to feed in down the line into the local infrastructure and City of Cape Town and NERSA, they pay us. You know, and that goes back to the investor. So not only are they supporting an incredible cause, there's a revenue model behind it.
Yes.
You know, it's fine to be involved in an NPO or a charity kind of environment, because we do not just other welfare organizations, we do government schooling projects as well as house of worship along the same NPO basis. But the bare essentials is that if we just generate what they require, okay, you don't have enough in reserves to service, maintain, insure it, to look after the installation. So we have to over-engineer to be able to support it over the 20-year lifespan of the relationship at a minimum, and to actually generate a return to the investor as well. So it's a symbiotic relationship where everyone wins.
So I think that's something that I really want to emphasize there and sort of make clear for people is how this works in a simplified way, right? So you guys are our partners. You're going to go out, build the installation, do the collections, etc.
Yes.
We're the partner on the technology, so we can tokenize, and we have this market where people can buy, sell, and trade, and they can receive their income, right?
Yes.
Now, people are still struggling to understand how that all works. And the very simple way that I like to explain it is it's like buying a house, except you've already got a tenant, and you've got a management company, like an Airbnb management company or whatever, to manage that for you. So you're buying a solar cell. It's already got someone who's agreed to rent it for 20 years. They're going to pay you for your solar, and you guys are managing it to make sure it's all up and running.
Correct.
And you make your money only if those cells are up and running at an absolute standard. So you're also incentivized to keep them running well.
Correct.
So we've got sort of 3 core points here, right? If you care about your community, if you care about South Africa, we're putting solar on for our community so that they have electricity to carry on surviving, like you said. If you care about the environment, you know, this is a renewable energy source, we're offsetting carbon emissions, and we know we're going in the right direction from an energy production standpoint.
Absolutely.
And if you care about your wallet, we're giving you a return, you know. So
everyone's a winner.
So everyone's a winner, yeah. So and people who would maybe come and go like, is everyone a winner? What are the, like, who's losing out here, would you say? Eskom?
Eskom is losing, like, yes or no. You know, I think South Africa's come to the realization that Eskom,
they had their shot.
Well, they need to focus on the reticulation and the actual grid itself.
Yes.
The ability to make sure that the grid can handle what we're feeding it and what it's being fed, and they need to look after that. From a generation point of view, it now needs to come from multiple sources.
Let that be private, right?
Yeah, let that be private, where, you know.
And this sort of came through in Cyril's speech to the nation when he announced we are in a crisis.
Yes.
And we need every business, every individual to step in and participate.
Yes, I think they're doing, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, as best as they can to remove the, how do you say, the hurdles for people to actually go in and aggressively do it, because there needs to be quality issues. There needs to be regulation in place that the right people are installing the right product, and that everything sits and balances. When we do an installation, it's a proper full-on needs analysis. What is what the building can require, what can it accommodate. More importantly, what are we feeding back into the infrastructure? We can't have a transformer which can only accommodate 100 kilowatts being fed with a 200 kilowatt installation. It's going to create problems. So it's that kind of balancing environment which we need to be cognizant of. And similarly, when we look at an installation, we want to make sure that not only can the property be fed what is required, that when we overproduce, council can manage that safely and handle that on the way in.
Yeah.
But I think everything's pointing in the right direction, where you accept the environment and you make it inclusive. The solution these days, as in solar, as in business, everything is about collaboration. Taking the best of breed, the best people together around the same problem and actually working together towards a solution, as opposed to keeping things under wrapped and your business model is your own. Because there's enough out there in this crisis for everyone to improve their lives. That's from the man in the street to the biggest company in the marketplace.
Tell me, I buy a solar cell, right? How do I make my money? Where does my money come from? Because we're telling people where they're earning a 12%. How? Where do they get their money from?
Well, each system that gets installed, has a metering backup environment. So the nice thing is that when you're in the solar space, you produce kilowatts, your client consumes kilowatts, and everything is measurable. A kilowatt has a rate. So I charge R1.50, for example. I'm producing at R1.25. The margin is there. It's measured on the way in.
So we're producing electricity and we're selling it.
Exactly.
Who are we selling it to?
We're selling it to firstly the person that's under the panel.
Yes.
Okay. That is your first client. So if you have a tenant or it's a school,
cool.
They're using 1,000 kilowatts per month. This is their normal utility rate.
So here's a hard question for you, right? We're putting panels on a school or a gender-based violence safe house. They are paying for the electricity.
Yeah.
Someone says, okay, well then you're not really helping them. You're charging them for electricity. What would you say to that?
We're keeping the lights on. Okay.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And the situation in this environment is that without electricity, they're in a bigger problem. Okay. And when you provide them with energy, you're providing them with energy for the normal consumption, or you're providing them the backup with battery and inverter capacity, so they're always on.
But also, they would be paying for that electricity anyways, right? They would be paying Eskom. Except here, in this case, they would be paying Eskom for intermittent electricity.
Exactly.
Whereas now they're paying you guys, or the investors, they're paying the crowd-funded, the people who own the solar panels,
yes,
for non-intermittent electricity.
Well, it goes further than that. Okay, so all the technology that we have, be it our microwave, our stove, our fridge, our oven, our electric blanket, whatever technology we have in the house, the last thing on earth it likes is intermittent electricity. It's got a certain amount of switch ons and switch offs, and every time it goes on and off, you degrade, you're damaging it.
Yeah.
So the impact that it has on you, instead of replacing your fridge every 4 years or 5 years, it's every 2 years or 3 years.
Yeah.
Your toaster, nothing that involves technology and energy hates more than going on and off and on and on and off. So we provide that. There is no capital expenditure required by any of our clients.
Yes.
So it's all fully funded.
That's
so the ease of entry in there is here today, gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I'm not paying any more. I'm paying for what I should be paying through my utility.
Exactly.
We're charging them the same rate. We just know that we're able to produce it cheaper, but give them the constant supply.
Exactly.
Okay. So what our panels generate allows us to purchase the installation, the battery, and the inverter. We know we can generate energy cheaper than the current utility, being Eskom.
Yeah.
And there's the arbitrage. The arbitrage pays for our margin, i.e. our return to investor of 12.5%, or whatever the agreed rate is. It pays for the installation, it pays for the insurance, the upkeep, and the maintenance. And further down the line, as technology improves, we can aftermarket bolt onto the existing infrastructure to allow us to produce energy for even cheaper.
Yeah.
But I think the overall benefit is amazing. There's no money out. your existing technology in your house is spared
Yeah.
the ups and downs and the ups and downs, other than just your normal safety and security.
Yeah.
You know, it's an absolute win-win.
Yeah. And so we're focusing on bigger community schools and centers. We've had a lot of requests from our users sending us messages like, oh, can you come and do my house? Why are we focusing on these bigger places and not houses?
Well, I'm a dad with 2 girls in school,
Yeah.
you know, and I know what it's like. And we're getting now 4.5 hours and 2.5 hours of load shedding, generally just as they've arrived at school or throughout their schooling day. It's incredibly disruptive, you know. Why are we using schools? Because we want our kids to be educated.
Yeah.
You know, we focus predominantly on schools, and these are government schools, not private schools. You know, where those kids need to be educated and need to feel safe. You know, also from a school's point of view, a lot of the schools in the areas that we focus on, they provide other community services. There's karate classes, there's self-defense classes, there's guidance and other activities which take place at a community school, other than just education. And to provide them with that security and that environment is where we need to be. From a government schools environment, they're currently busy with a fairly extensive upgrade rotation throughout their schools, and they're good at that. They're doing a good job. So they're providing structural support to the building. They're getting the asbestos
to make
roofing.
sure that they can get solar on top.
To make sure they're going to get solar on top. They're also changing the roofing structure. I mean, especially in the Western Cape, we're an asbestos city.
Yeah.
So they're removing the asbestos. They're putting proper roofing on. They're getting the electrical COCs up to date, and they're going from school to school to school. Where we come in is we say, fine, those schools which are done, okay, we will take care of the solar installation. And go that route. And as we know, with government schools, they're community schools, and they have more than just an education deliverable. They've got a community deliverable, and that's where we like to be.
So one of the questions that I get is, so we're forecasting a 12% return from this asset, but now I'm being told there's maintenance included, there's insurance included, there's all of this. Does that come after, or does that affect that return rate at all?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. We've got it's each installation is a business on its own, for want of a better word.
Yes.
So we purpose the installation to make sure that we're generating enough solar capacity that's fed into the school and into the grid, where the returns, so to speak, are inclusive of management fee, they're inclusive of insurance, they're inclusive of maintenance, upgrade.
So that's 12% after all costs.
That's after all costs.
After all costs, you're getting 12% ROI clean. Right?
Exactly right.
Yeah, absolutely. So Gerard, I mean, we're big fans of the work that you do. We crowdfund and finance the installs that you and your team put together. I'd love to give my audience a little bit of an insight into how you guys pick the right site. What are you guys looking for? What makes it a great, viable site, not only for us to make an impact in the community, but also, as we've said, to provide a meaningful return to those who are funding this project?
These are very good questions, because each site that we look at has
different.
Entirely different dynamics. You know, obviously the roof structure is pretty important, what direction it's facing. We do have support and infrastructure that can adjust the directions of the panels and do that appropriately. Some of them are better than others. You know, concerns are big buildings around it, or big trees that we can't do anything about because they're important to the facility that we're at. But it's very rare that you come across an installation that you can't purpose. You know, sometimes it might require a few more panels, but generally when you operate in a variance of 5-6%, you'll end up being okay. You know, your margin, your net margin to the investor will always be within that 12.5%, because there is a go no go aspect to a project, or there's a partially funded environment, and that can also work for the school. So
there's a go no go. What are some of the things you're looking for if you have to say these are the characteristics that make a good solar project that we should build and that investors should fund?
Okay, so obviously it is the size and structure of the roof.
Size, of course.
It's load bearing capacity.
Yeah.
The actual bulk municipal board or supply into the building, because if you have a low voltage transformer outside the establishment, it can't handle the amount of capacity which will allow us to feed in what we would require. But in generally in all instances, there's always an installation to be done or a solution to be provided. In terms of the return for our business, we might look at a contribution. If the returns are marginal, to safeguard the return to our investor, there would be a part payment by our client. Where we need to generate a specific return, and you might need to contribute X amount for batteries, but the return to the investor will remain consistent or better.
Yes.
It's just horses for courses, and we'll only really know what we're able to produce, how consistent that supply would be when you do a full workings of it. We have a team of 3 entirely independent engineers that look at our projects, and between our supply chain partners, we get the best modeling done.
Yes. Yeah. So just to make sure I understood you correctly, so you look at the size of the roof space, right? The bigger the better, of course. We want more roof space for more solar panels.
Correct.
And proportionally, ideally, you want less of an offtake from the client. Is that necessarily true?
That is, in some instances, it's true, but preferably the person that is under your panels, you want to provide the bulk of their consumption to, because their rate is generally higher than what you be currently.
Then the feed-in tariff.
Exactly, then the feed-in tariff. And feed-in tariffs are pretty important. If you go to a marginal area in a farming community, they might be on a rand 59 or whatever the case may be, where down the road or in a different space with a different tariff rate, you're looking at $2.50 per kilowatt hour. These are the kind of space that you work in. So these are critical. We want to help as many communities as we can, but we've also got to make sense for it from an investor point of view.
So in terms of who's buying the electricity, there's also like a little bit of a cash waterfall that happens here, right? So you've got the off-taker or the site where the cells actually sit.
Correct.
And they're the first ones buying that electricity. Correct. If we produce more electricity than they use, there's a secondary market there where we can wheel it or sell it to other businesses, right?
Correct. So
in the area at a certain rate. And then if they haven't bought up all of the demand, then finally we have the city of Cape Town that'll actually pay a feed-in tariff.
That's correct.
And the rates sort of go down proportionally there, but at the worst case scenario, you've always got that base backup. You can always sell to the grid. And like we said, the feed-in tariff now is higher than what the cost of installation is. Correct. So we can always guarantee, in a sense, a return to the investor.
Correct. When we run our modeling, we always run it on the lowest possible return rate.
Conservative model.
Correct. You want to be conservative, but you'd rather have your surprises in the better direction than try work on weighted averages. So we stick on the lowest possible turn rate and overshoot.
Yeah.
But yes, and you mentioned wheeling. Wheeling is becoming more and more relevant in the marketplace, and that gives you an opportunity to generate energy off-site for a company that can't put panels on their roof, but there are large consumers where your overage, you can contract with that company for them to take advantage of that overproduction.
Yeah.
So if I'm using 1,000 kilowatts and I'm paying a high rate for it, I can buy kilowatts that have already been produced to offset that against my bill.
Yeah.
So it would be your panels, then the client below the panels, then you can go to market and wheel it onto a specific user and contract it over a period of time. There are some dynamics which are at play in terms of where it gets wheeled from, who the supplier is, where your offtake agreement sits in terms of their channel, but these are all commercial decisions.
But I mean, without all of those complexities, because you guys manage that, right?
Correct.
So for me as an investor, I buy an asset and I'm getting a return.
Yeah.
Now I know, okay, there's a management company here who makes sure I get that return.
Correct.
Because they're collecting payment from either whether the building that has my panels on top of it, from another business who's buying that power, or from the city of Cape Town who would buy that power.
Correct. So Eskom and then city of Cape Town, all the municipality where it's generated.
Yeah.
I wish we could say solar and this kind of space is a sexy business. It's not really. It's actually quite boring, and it's literally stats, digits, and data.
Yes.
And the best thing about being in the space is that everything is measured. It's all measured in the same way, not just locally, but nationally and internationally.
Yeah.
We're all using kilowatts. We're all producing kilowatts, and that costs X amount to produce.
Absolutely.
And the nuances are what rates are applicable, how's it measured, and how's it accounted for.
Yeah.
So those are the back end sides of the business, which it's a bit boring, but it is what it is. It's what we do.
Sure. Tell us a little bit more about we spoke about the impact that it makes to put these solar panels on. What has the experience been from customers or clients who've had this model done for them? So they've had solar panels installed at zero upfront cost to them. What is their feedback? What do they enjoy? You know, how is it?
We have so many different responses, and they're all pretty interesting. And you know, it's just the sense of relief that you get. It's actually absolutely amazing, because a lot of it is like, because you don't see it, you don't understand it, but when you feel it, it really works.
Yes.
You know, and you hear about the impact, but when you see it on your balance sheet or on your numbers or on your account, and that your lights are still on, it's quite an amazing experience. Yeah. What you also find is that once it's installed, it's technology, guys, you know, and it's not that simple, but it's not that complicated. My daughter can manage it better than I can, which is also okay. She's far smarter than I am. But to learn that you also have to be responsible with your installation. It's, don't be wasteful. Still, like, change the light bulbs in your home. It really helps. You know, understand your settings and work with your settings. You know, it's been made easier and easier and easier by the day, but there is an education process that needs to take place. It's not just plug and play and you walk away and it all takes care of itself. There's maintenance that we take care of. We go to do extensive site inspections twice a year to make sure all the panels are clean, that the bolts are tightened, that there's no tree that's fallen over, and these kinds of scenarios. So once it's installed, it still needs to be looked after. Yeah. You know?
So I would say that's a very good argument as well. I had this interaction with someone who said, well, why would I buy some of your solar cells if I could just go and put solar on my own rooftop and save it there? And my answer to him was very simple. I was like, well, two things. Number one, not everybody has a rooftop to put solar on. So just understand that privilege there. Like, cool, you've got that. But let's assume we're still talking about everyone who can put on their own rooftop. Number two is, like you just said, it's not that simple to maintain and to make sure it's in perfect running order. I would much rather trust an expert such as a Carbon Zero to go and manage that asset for me to ensure that I'm getting a return. If I put it on my own house, right, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I could seriously impact my returns on saving electricity bill, or how well these solar panels work for me in my personal capacity. And then there's also additional costs, right? If something breaks, I'm out of pocket to fix that. You know, if I need to call out an electrician to look at it, I'm out of pocket for all of that. Whereas when I buy these solar cells, there's a full management service already baked into the model.
Yeah.
You know?
Look, when you want to get involved in the space, you need a professional setup that you're involved with. Okay, that this is their business. That's what they do, and they're good at it. It's like when we discuss the installations with the schools and with the house of worship. It's the house of worship have a flock that they need to look after, and the schools have pupils that they need to educate, and that's where they should keep their focus on. We take care of the insurance, the maintenance, the installation, the billing, and we take care of the risk as well, you know.
And I think it's important to point out there that if this asset or if this investment isn't properly managed, you don't make your money either, right? And that's important for the people to understand, that we're perfectly aligned in terms of our incentives. We're
absolutely aligned.
In terms of our incentives. We all make money in the same way.
Yeah.
And that way is to provide a really good service, high yield solar assets that are constantly producing electricity. The only way all of us make money out of this is if that asset is producing electricity consistently. That's how Moment can make money, that's how you guys make money, and that's how the retail investor makes money.
Exactly. You know, the fact of the matter is that we finance the installations in its truest sense. Okay. And the way in which we finance it, we're signed, we're accountable to it. And if we're not producing 100% of what that installation is set out to do, we're losing money. You know, so we're heavily incentivized to make sure that we're best in breed, we're on top form, and the system delivers exactly what it's supposed to deliver. And for example, our insurance, you know, when a panel goes down or there's something goes wrong, we replace it and we take care of it immediately, so we're producing the next day. I'll worry about claiming from insurance tomorrow, but let me do my install today because we need to keep the lights on
Yeah.
We keep the lights on, we generate an income and a return.
Gerard, thank you so much. Thank you for
pleasure.
making the time. I know you're super busy. We've got a ton of installs happening at the moment. We've got demand is through the roof. I'm very pleased to let you know that the demand on the sales side is also through the roof. The tokens are selling out very quickly. So we're all just trying to keep up with the demand. But really, thank you for taking the time out to speak with me, to shed a little bit of light for all of those who are interested in the projects, for all of those who wanted to know a little bit more about how it works, why it works. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time.